Hello, teachers, and welcome to this live-streamed community event on the Teaching English Facebook page, brought to you by the British Council. My name is Marcus James, and in today's session, which is part 2 of our special live series looking at creating ELT materials, we're joined by Katherine Bilsborough, who's going to be talking about how teachers can move from teaching ELT materials to writing ELT materials. So let's go and meet her. Hello, Kath. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me back. I had an absolute ball the last time on Monday. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. It was so wonderful to see so much engagement in the chat box, people asking questions, people sharing advice. In fact, I've got to go back again into the page, I think, to read some more comments. But I came away with a real good feeling. You know, teachers have got so much to say, and I just felt that we were all learning so much from each other. So yeah, I was very excited about coming back to do part 2.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we love about this community. We've got so many teachers from different parts of the world. I can see we're being joined by Carl in Thailand, Mario in Belgium, Jacqueline in France, Susanna in Poland. So a wealth of knowledge and experience and different perspectives from these different parts of the world. Teachers watching, if you do have any questions for Katherine, please do pop them in the comments on this video. Likewise, if you have any experience that you would like to share with us as well, we'd be interested to read your comments. So, Katherine, we didn't get to obviously cover all of the comments and questions that came up last session on Monday, but there was a great question from one of our followers that I think we could kick off with to start this session. It was David Squires who asked, what skills other than teaching skills would you say a classroom teacher would need to develop to become a successful materials writer?
That is such a good question, and it is the perfect question to kick off today, I think. So a big thank you to David for that. I don't know if he'll be watching today, but I've thought about this, and I've got a little list, if you like, of skills that I think would be useful. If anybody's got anything to add to the list, pop it in the chat box, because I'm sure that some of you have. So, firstly, I think you need to read a lot and write a lot. So you need to have the skills that normal reading and writing linked to normal reading and writing. But there are lots of skills that you might not have considered. So, for example, if you're going to be writing for a publisher or for somebody else, you will need to have time management skills. You will have to keep to a schedule, and it's probably a good idea to have time management skills even if you're writing for yourself, because it's difficult to be organized sometimes. I know that this is something that I need to work on myself. You need to be able to collaborate in a good manner, I think, because normally when we write materials in every context, we need help somewhere along the line. Now, this might be just asking somebody to read through what you've written, to give you some feedback, or you might want to actually engage with a professional editor. And if you're working for a publisher, for example, there will be a whole group of people involved: designers, illustrators, project managers, etc. And that communication is key, because if you do it well, you will be invited back. But if you're not a particularly good communicator, people might remember this and they might think, oh, do you remember they didn't get in touch until it was too late, etc. So that's another skill. File sharing, this kind of thing, organizing files and folders. This is a skill that not all of us have developed as well as, some people do it better than others. Digital skills, that's a big one. Okay, so some people are brilliant at all things to do with technology, and these skills can be transferred into creating materials. Some of you will be very familiar with authoring tools, um, things that you can use to create materials online for your classes can be then transformed, if you like, into something that you can share with other people. Games, this kind of thing. You probably have more expertise in that area than me. You people out there who've been creating games for your classes, shared boards like Padlets, this kind of thing. All of this, these skills are really useful. Creative skills too, creativity. To be able to look at a page and consider how design works, whether it's good to have a head in here, a picture there, is it balanced, do the colors go well? Some of these skills you will have and some of them you can develop. I think a good way to develop all skills when it comes to creating materials is to evaluate existing materials and to think about what's good and what could be better, if you like. But a lot of the skills that we are told that we should be teaching and developing in our students, so things like collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking, they're all valid for ourselves too, for us, and they will all help. So critical thinking, for example, thinking about what might be of value for these materials, what will, what does the world need, what is there a gap in the market, this kind of thing. So if anything else occurs to me, I'll refer to it. Maybe at the end of this I'll write a list and I'll pop it in the chat. But if anything else occurs to any of you, skills that you think might be useful, please pop them in the chat as well.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing those. Kath, you're absolutely right. I think teachers already, we have these skills, and they are what we call transferable skills. There are these life 21st century skills. So I think we're already well placed to enter the world of ELT materials writing. Kath, I was going to ask, following on that, let's say, and I include myself in this, that there are some things some skills I don't have. I am not, I don't have an eye for sort of graphics on a page. Is that something that I would need to work on, or would I be able to sort of enlist maybe a friend's help?
That's a brilliant question, because you could do one of two things. You could actually teach yourself, okay? Because these days, as we know, you can just go onto the internet and you can do a search for how to whatever, and you can find videos. You can buy a book about something. You can do a course about something. So there are lots and lots of ways that you can teach yourself to develop these skills. But also, I think one of the best ways of creating materials is to do so with somebody else. So, two or three people. So you might have some colleagues. So you might have some ideas for materials. very often there are people doing very similar things to you in another place, maybe in another country. And you just, if you connect with these people and share your expertise and skills, you can help each other. So one of you might be good at digital skills, and another might be good at organizational skills. One of you might be really good at grammar. One of you might be really good at pronunciation. Um, you might not be very good at drawing, but you need some illustrations. And you know, you've got a colleague who might not have that many ideas about content, but might be really good at drawing. And getting together, I think this is it's a nice way of doing it, because also by sharing ideas, you know that saying, they say it's something like, we are more than the sum total of our parts, or something like this. So there are two of us, but when we get together, it's as if there were five of us, you know, generating all this these ideas and help. I call him, I refer to this as having a writing buddy. And if you've got a writing buddy, you've got somebody there who you can throw ideas around with. You can say, look at this and tell me honestly what you think. How could I make it better? Is it too long? Is it too big? Is it too small? And you can do the same for them. And you might be thinking immediately now, oh, I know who I can ask to be my writing buddy. But you might be thinking, oh, I've got nobody who to ask. But we've all got people to ask, because we all have colleagues. And I always say, ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. And
Well,
the worst
sorry,
that can
sorry, Kath,
happen.
just to pick you up there. I mean, Laura has already got the ball rolling. She's reached out to the community, wanting to collaborate with other teachers who are watching along with Laura at the moment. She's in Argentina. So who knows? We could get some collaborations
Yeah,
going.
I think I mean the best way to actually start this, if anybody like Laura there has an idea of what they want to do, or if they say, I'm interested in creating materials for primary, or for business English, or for first certificate exam preparation or something. If you've got an idea like this that you're already thinking about, put it in the chat box. See if anybody jumps in and says, me too. Let's this could be like the Tinder of ELT. Who knows? Who knows where we could
It's a
end up? But
matchmaking service, yes.
yeah, because I think that the idea here is that in the real world, you know, when we mingle with colleagues in a staff room, at a conference, or whatever, we form relationships and friendships, and we do great things. So we can mimic that. We can make that happen wherever we are, and this is a good place to start the ball rolling. And please tell us if any success stories come forth from
Absolutely.
this.
Yes, we'd absolutely love to hear about that. Sorry, just to quickly tell teachers who are watching about an important update. If you're interested, we are. Oh, no, so teachers who are watching, we don't usually do this, but if you stick around to the end of this session, we'll give you details on how you can download a certificate of attendance. So we will publish that at the end of this live stream. Sorry about that, Kath, and let's get back to the discussion. So lots of comments about collaborating in the chat, lots of offers of help, lots of requests for collaboration. So we would love to know how that sort of pans out. I've got a few specific questions and comments coming in at the moment, Kath, if that's okay.
Yeah, fire away.
All right. So now this one, kind of similar to what you mentioned before. I think we've addressed that really, haven't we? The important skills. Yeah, so we have addressed that. Oh, I've lost that one. And just a few comments actually coming through. So when Amna says here, yes, we don't need to start from scratch. What might she be referring to in this sense? When we talk about creating materials, do we have to start, literally with the blank page, or can we start with something that's already in existence?
Yeah, I think it's very much depends on your context and what it is that you want to do. When we talk about creating materials, we can think about it in two different ways. We can think about self-publishing, so creating lesson plans, books, games, whatever, and putting them out there, sharing them, selling them, generating an income from them. Or we can think about getting work writing for a publisher, a school, an organization, this kind of thing. And nothing has to be from scratch. I would say that the very first thing that we would be considering is what are our particular interests, our areas of interest, and which unique skills do we have. So every single person here today will have a unique set of skills, expertise, experience, background, knowledge. So even though there might be, for example, 10 people interested in creating materials for primary students, of those 10, somebody might be have knowledge of a particular curriculum in a key country. So, for example, very often publishers will say, we are looking for somebody with experience in the education system in Egypt, for example. Or they might be, or other key areas, for example, you might be a musician. So you might decide to create materials for other musicians. So special focus, yeah. So, or you might have a sister who works in the tourist industry, and you might know a lot about the kind of English people in the tourist industry need to work. So you might be able to draw on that and become an expert. You might have lived experience that is valuable for a particular context. You might belong to a particular social group or a particular ethnic group. You might belong to a certain community. You might have a certain history where your knowledge is key and nobody knows better than you this particular area, if you like. I think it would be quite nice as a task, actually, to sometimes we are not aware of our unique strengths and value until we sit down and think about it. In which areas, what do I know about? What do I understand? What do I feel passionate about? It could be anything. It could be football. It could be an animal. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is, because that makes you the right person to be creating materials based on that particular theme.
Well, Kath, as you were speaking, I popped up the question on the screen as an interactive card, and I can see we've got quite a few responses so far. English for manners, English for academic purposes, Antonio, business English, task-based language, quite a few say grammar, Garima, innocent as well. Let's have a look if we've got, oh, this one's good. Penny, science and ecology. That's
Wow.
quite
Yeah.
specialist. Of course, it doesn't have to be necessarily about the content. It could be the skills. Claire says she's great at using Canva and teacher training. What else? Let's have a quick look. Just looking for something a bit more niche-y. We got this, science and geology, digital skills.
Yeah, think about your hobbies. Think about your interests. Think about your where in the world you live. Your students' backgrounds. Yeah, there are places to draw expertise from. It's really exciting because when you start to consider these things, you realize you think, hey, I've got something here that I can share and people will pay for this. You've mentioned Claire Hayward, this comment here using Canva.
Yeah.
Well, Claire actually realized that people in ELT needed to use Canva in a number of different environments. And she designed a course, a 4-week course, specifically for teachers who want to use Canva. And I am actually doing that course at the moment.
Wow.
So it's a skill that I wanted to develop. So she saw a gap in the market. She is a whiz kid with Canva. She advertised it. Lots of us signed up, and we're doing it. So you think about it. What can I offer? And everybody has something to offer. And if nothing comes to mind immediately, talk to somebody, and somebody else will say, "Oh, but you know all about cooking Italian food or whatever." Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, that reminds me of when I was doing a similar session. You know, I couldn't think. You know, oh, I'm not good at anything. But then I think my trainer asked this question: what do people come to me asking for help with? And boom, yes, right. So business English, technology stuff, gadgets, gizmos. That's my sort of area of expertise. So yes, we all have one. So your friends, your colleagues, what do they come to you and ask about? So more often than not, that will be your specialist area, whether you actually realize it or not. Alexis says dyslexia, as well as sales and marketing. That's very unique.
I think that's another thing to do, of course, is to try to keep up with current issues and topics in the world of English teaching. And I think dyslexia and other neurodiversity, it's the inclusion, diversity, all of these are very topical at the moment. And if you've got any kind of experience, whether it's from your personal experience, or maybe you have a brother or a son, or whatever your experience, where it doesn't matter where it comes from, it's really, really valuable. I think it's important too to get to sort of a bit of the nitty-gritty. You know, how do you get to the point where you can sell materials or work to make money with materials? The most important thing is to get your materials seen and to get yourself known as being an expert in a particular area. And of course, there are lots of ways that we can do this. So it's if you are sitting on a folder full of wonderful materials that you've created for your classes, but nobody else has ever seen them, well, that's a shame. Yeah. So you need to think of ways of sharing, showing, showcasing, and you need to get out there a bit and yeah, get known, if you like. So on social media, join in teacher groups. Maybe some of you have a blog or a website. In fact, if any of you listening today create your own materials and you do have a blog or a website or a Google site or somewhere where you have them stored and would like to share them, please do. Let's start showing them and asking for feedback, sharing with teachers. Then I think another way of getting yourself known or getting out there a little bit is by offering to write an article for a journal or a magazine, offering to write a blog post. A lot of the teacher organisations like IATEFL or the British Council, of course, TESOL in various countries, locally and internationally, they have websites, they have blogs, they have special interest groups, they have publications. And in my experience, they are always looking for people to make contributions, to write articles, to have an interview, to collaborate in some way, because most of these people work on a voluntary basis and they're always looking for people to jump in and help in some way. So contact these people. Also with publishers, if you look on any publisher's website, and you might begin in your country, or you might decide to go big and look at the international website. It doesn't matter. But at the very bottom of most of these websites, there's a contact button where you can click and write to them and say, I'm interested in whatever. A lot of the people who I've spoken to this week, I spoke to a lot of colleagues who are writers and professionally, and I asked them how they got into it. And there were all kinds of answers, but the one thing they got in common was that they made themselves known to key players and key people. And most people didn't begin by writing a course book or anything like this, but they began by saying something like, I'm available to review some materials, to trial or pilot some materials, um, to write some supplementary worksheets to accompany an existing course, whatever. And by doing this, you get yourself known. And if you do the work well, which of course you will get a reputation of being a good contact. Publishers are always, always, always looking for new writers and editors. And they love it when you're a teacher, because the best people to write teacher materials are people with experience of teaching, for obvious reasons. Peter Fulliger has got a comment there. It's all about getting your name out there. And Peter is a friend of mine, and he has been writing some amazing materials that he's been sharing based on topics that we don't always talk about. His latest one was about bereavement or grief. And it's now, for example, I think of Peter as somebody who writes material in that vein, if you like. And I'm sure that other publishers are noticing this. And if they decide to bring out a book on this kind of thing, they'll probably go straight to Peter and ask him to get involved. So make yourself known. Get
Absolutely.
out there.
In fact, it's interesting, a few teachers are materials writers or bloggers, and they have been sharing the links to their websites in the comments as well. So we'll have to have a look at some of those a little bit later. So, Kath, I've got a few questions and comments, well, quite a few actually on topic. If I could run some past you. So this one really asking your opinion from Antonio Scott. Where do you see opportunities in content creation, e.g. e-learning?
Well, there are opportunities coming from every angle, and I notice the opportunities that pop up that are of particular interest to me. But there will be other opportunities popping up that might not be on my horizon because I'm not particularly interested in that side of things, if you like. So I would say that the times that we're living in, right now, are probably the richest times in terms of opportunities for creating content than ever before. I've never seen so many opportunities, so many offers of work, so many new publishers coming out. Also, we've got this new thing that's appeared, which is called a packager. So in the past, we had publishers, and they might be bigger or smaller. And now we've got this thing called a packager. And what a packager does, it's an organization, it's a company, a business that takes on the work from a publisher. So a publisher will say, okay, we want to create this particular set of materials. We're going to give this project to this packager, and this packager is going to get the work done. They're going to contract writers, illustrators, designers, photo researchers, editors, project managers, whatever. So we've got more places to look. Other things are happening too. So sometimes a school might decide that they want to create materials for the entire thing that you could put forward in your own school. You might say, look, all these teachers, we're creating extra supplementary materials about this. Why don't we actually do it in a more formal way and publish them and work together to create them? There are lots of NGOs that ask for materials. There are businesses, for example, they might be everybody working in a particular business. For example, an airline company, they're asking all their workers to have a certain level of English, and they want to create their own materials to use so that there's a kind of homogeneous set of materials being loads of opportunities in all different quarters. Later, maybe at the end, I'll share some names as well of people who you might like to follow on social media who share information about these opportunities. So if you link to those people and connect with those people, you will automatically get updates and information. So.
Excellent. I just brought up a comment from Giselle on the screen. I work at a private school in Sao Paulo and have always been in contact with publishers, Macmillan, Oxford, Cambridge, Richmond, and that helped me get into writing. They asked me about my views on the course books we used. So if you are in a position where you can help choose the course book for your students, then materials publishers like Macmillan, Oxford, Cambridge, love to hear from you. And obviously they want to sell books at the end of the day, so they want to know what your students would like and what the teacher would like to have as sort of resources to support their learners as well.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point actually that Giselle's made, because one thing teachers do understand more than anybody else, better than anybody else, is what works in a classroom and what doesn't. And that kind of information is invaluable for publishers. So you could even offer, if you're using a course book now with your students and whatever your opinion of the course book, whether it's positive or negative or mixed as it usually is, you could contact the publisher and say, I am using this book with these classes and I would like to give you some feedback about it. Would it be welcome? And I'm almost certain that in most cases they'll get back to you and say, yes, please, we would love to have that information. It's priceless, that information. But in fact, publishers often pay for a report of that kind or feedback of that kind or a focus group or this kind of thing. So, but be proactive, yeah? Don't wait to be asked. Just say, look, here I am. I'm using this course book. I've got lots to say. Or yeah.
That's right, because you as the teacher are the thing that stands between the publishers selling their book and potential customers, the students. So they obviously want to be, or they want you to be on their good side, their positive light. Lots of comments still coming through. Kath, I would just like to bring up this one. I did come through quite early on in the session from Antonio Scott. So if we're talking about, where's it gone? Oh, let's try that again. Publish. There we are. How do you estimate the cost of material? As a follow-up question, what about the licensing?
Okay, so if you are selling your own material, you will need to protect your copyright. Okay, and there are a number of ways that you can do that. And later, actually, I'll add in the chat box some websites where you can find out information about this. You can share material in a number of ways. You can publish through, you can self-publish and sell the materials from your own website. For example, you can actually have a page that is a shop. You can use one of the sites that exists, like, for example, Teachers Pay Teachers, where you put up, you start an account, you put your materials on the site, and you sell it from there. You can use Amazon, for example, where they will take a proportion of your sales, but they will also guide you through. There are tutorials for this, and they can guide you through the self-publication process. That can be an ebook or it can be a print on demand book. Also, there are a number of independent publishers. Now, we'll show a slide in a minute where I've mentioned a couple. I've mentioned 3, but there will be more. And these are small publishers who will help you self-publish. Here we go. It's probably a good idea to go through some of these now. So Teachers Pay Teachers, some of you will be familiar with it. This is where you can sell single worksheets or packs of worksheets, etc. And I'm told that it's better to have a set of materials. And some things you can sell quite cheaply, you know, $1 or something. But then if you've got a set, you might say 10 for $6 or whatever. And of course, the more you sell and the more you promote these things, you know, it's a monthly income, hopefully, that you can get. ELT Teacher to Writer, they've got a website and they've got a Facebook page, and they publish a series of small handbooks, printed or ebooks. I have to say here that I wrote one of them. I wrote How to Teach Primary Materials, but they've got a set on anything you can think of, how to write business English materials, CLIL materials, how to write worksheets, etc. So that's worth looking at. One Stop English, they have a lesson plan competition, and it's a great idea to enter competitions with materials. This is just one that I know of, and if you win, it's a great springboard into more work, because then you can say, I'm an award-winning writer, because it's going to be true, yeah? And you can showcase the materials that you've created. And a lot of materials writers that are working full-time as writers today started off in this way. Freeed.com. This is something similar to Teachers Pay Teachers, but it's free. Now, it's worth doing some free stuff to be able to get feedback, to be able to get a feel of how well your materials are accepted, and if they're used by a lot of people, then that will inform you. You can, you know, it'll have an impact. It's like a way of getting your materials seen, used, getting feedback, and then making them better. And the last 3 points that I've put there are 3 independent publishers who will help you self-publish your book. Okay, Ways Goose Press, that's Dorothy Zemak. Alphabet Publishing, that's Walton Burns. And Peachy Publications, that's Nick Peachy. Some of you will know these people, so you can get in touch with them and you can ask them what the deal is. You know, you can send them the manuscript, they'll polish it for you, they'll find editors, they'll edit it, they'll publish, they'll make it into a book for you. Obviously, they will then take a share of royalties and sales, but it might be worth doing it that way. So just a list of a few places that might be interesting to investigate. And how to price things, coming back to the question that we had before, it's not easy to know how to price things, but the first thing I would do is look around at similar things and seeing how they're priced. Don't underprice yourself. Don't think, you know, I'm new at this, so I need to, you know, because if you've got a good product, you know, put value on your work. And there's nothing to stop you from changing the price, or from having a special offer, or for saying something like, you know, for 6 weeks only, this is going to be, you know, 20% discount or something. And ask around as well, ask other people, ask for advice, have a little look at, have a snoop at other people's products and see what they're charging and place yourself in a similar way. Also, if you price something too high and you think that people are not buying it because it's too high, consider bringing the price down. There's nothing wrong with changing something like this, you know, but it's worth doing a bit of research into that. Yeah, definitely. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we come back to the idea of your sort of unique set of expertise and skills. The more, I guess, niche or kind of specialist the materials, obviously the smaller the potential market, but very often the higher the value because teachers are desperate. I think we saw a few comments on Monday. I think we had teachers looking to write materials on, was it wine? Saw one. There was
Yeah.
another one on restaurants. So I think there are some very specialist areas of ELT, aren't there?
Yeah, because if you keep it too broad, then even though there might be more interest in that topic, you're also up against tough competition
Mm,
sometimes. But if you narrow things down, you might find that you're one of very few. So everybody interested in it. And of course, the thing to do then is to generate interest, to find potential clients, to find. So, for example, if you decide to write a book about English for the medical profession, then what you need to do then is to find teachers who are teaching doctors. You need to find teacher, you know, so you start making connections and maybe start you know, blogging about it or writing some helpful, you know, tips about it and make it known that you've got a book out there or some materials or
mm.
whatever with those points.
That's a good tip there. I think that has covered all the questions I wanted to raise. Just a quick double check that I've not missed any. Lots of appreciation for sharing those websites. Of course, they're not the only places, but they are sort of the most respected and well-known. I guess the flip side of that, of course, there are some sites you may visit that you're not sure whether it's worth the effort and the energy of setting up your profile and creating your resources and uploading if they're just not getting the teachers into the website in the first place. So more often than not, if you have heard of these websites, if they sound familiar to you, then probably they are trustworthy, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe we could show that slide that you prepared of a list. There are lots of people doing some great things that help teachers who want to become writers.
Mm.
And the trouble with compiling a list is that inevitably you're going to leave people out. But I decided I chose 10 names, and these are people who I know personally, and I know I've looked at the work that they've done or whatever. So I'm just going to go through them very quickly. These are people that I would suggest you follow and connect with on social media, on LinkedIn especially, but on Facebook too. So Atena, the first one, they're in alphabetical order, by the way, not in order of importance. Atena does something amazing. She's a writer and an editor, and she collates and collects all of the work opportunities that she comes across. I can't remember how regularly she did, but quite regularly. So when she sees posts offering work as for writers and editors, she compiles them in a list and she shares them so that everybody can access them immediately. Bhavna Gupta, I don't know if she's here today. I know she was here the other day, and she's started writing materials on with the sort of diversity and lesser represented people, if you like. And I know that she's collaborated recently with Silvina Maschiti, who's down the bottom there, and they've written an excellent lesson plan about well, I'll let you look it up actually, but topics that you might not expect to find. Billy, she's got a podcast, ELT CPD, and she's got a whole series of interviews with ELT writers. So giving tips and advice. So you can find her, download the podcast, follow her, etc. Emma Haderman is another one who's got a brilliant website, and she's got some blogs where she writes about how to get into writing, etc. Fiona Hunter is she's a teacher and a young learners specialist, and she sells her materials for young learners. And I think she's an example of how to do it really well. So have a look what she's got there, and I'm sure if you'd reached out for advice, Fiona would be more than happy to help. Harry Waters, some of you might know, I think he might be here today, and he's got Renewable English, where he creates and shares materials about sustainability. And what Harry's done, he's now a key figure in the whole topic of sustainability. So he's getting offered work by key players who see him as somebody to get in touch with to ask for advice about sustainability and materials, etc. John Hughes, a lot of you will know, absolutely brilliant. He's got a YouTube channel where he talks about writing materials. Rachel, same brilliant person to follow. Silvina, excellent materials she's got on her website, and Sylvia Clayton, another one. So I've rushed through a few of those, but they're just a few names of people that are worth hooking up with, because they every now and then they'll come up with some brilliant advice, and they're very approachable people too. And that's, I think most teachers are. Most teachers like sharing, collaborating, working together, and are very generous. And those who aren't, we probably don't hear of them, do we? Because we tend to hear and connect with the people who are buzzing around, making comments and being helpful. So there are probably other, if you know of anybody else who might be helpful and worth following and connecting with, please write their names in the chat box, and don't be afraid to write your own name if you'd like to help and be helpful and connect with people, because if by actually saying I am more than happy to connect with people and share my experiences, that's kind of given an invitation to other people to send you a friend request or a connection request or whatever.
Excellent. Catherine, thank you so much. Such a wealth of information. As Lourdes says in this comment here, I'll have to watch this live stream again. I think, yes, there's been so much information, lots of questions and comments asking about that information, whether we can share it in the comments. I think the best thing to do would be to, just like Lourdes, to rewatch the specific part where the information that you're looking for. We will, of course, keep the discussion going. Myself, Karen, my colleague, is already in the comments helping to respond to some of your questions at the moment. Catherine, I'll probably see you in the comments later as well, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to finish with a quotation that I found this morning. Well, I've seen it before, and I think it's a nice way to end. It's just quite a funny one. And I'll write it in the comments later. But the writer, Somerset Maugham, he said this. He said, there are 3 rules to be a successful writer. Unfortunately, nobody knows what they are, which is obviously a joke. But hopefully we've shared some rules today and put some people on paths to becoming writers themselves. And I wish you all every success in those ventures and look forward to seeing what you do. Can't wait to get into the chat box later and see what people are saying and check people out. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for being.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Catherine. Just quickly, if you look at the pinned comment just below this video, you'll see there are instructions and a link where you can download and edit your certificate of attendance for this session. If you can't find it there, we'll also post a link in the event page. So, Kath, thank you so much for sharing so much of your valuable experience and insights, and of course time with us. Not just the chat that we're having on camera, but also the many hours that you spent in the comment section on Monday for sure. So it's very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a joy, really.
And of course, teachers watching, do continue the discussion down in the comments. And of course, if you're looking for partners to collaborate with a ELT materials project, do get the ball rolling, start connecting. That's it for us for this short series on ELT materials. Tomorrow, join Karen and Graham, and they're going to be talking about skills for skills for remote teaching. That will be at 2 p.m. UK time. Do check out the Facebook page for all details of our upcoming events. There are so many, I've lost track. Anyway, thank you so much, Catherine, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.